what you all have.
So I just want to reiterate again how awesome all of the leaders in this group are. I think a lot of times when I work with students or communication interns that are working on building skills to counsel folks, they can get really hung up in the script and have a really hard time making it interactive and engaging. But I think all of the leaders in this group did a really good job of, after the go-around, recapping and kind of summarizing with really concrete examples and making it personalized to the group, and I think that makes it a lot more effective and meaningful. I thought that the group did a really good job. There were a few times where folks got up to go to the washroom, and so when they come back, just acknowledging them and still making them feel included, that felt really nice. I thought Alan had mentioned a couple times that it can be really helpful for the group leaders to make sure that they're allowing themselves to be vulnerable and give really good examples so that you don't fall into a pattern within the group. And I think with this group it worked really well, and I saw that you maybe almost were kind of working together and playing off each other. So remembering that there are 3 of you, and if it kind of moves towards giving more shallow examples because you're spread out in the group, that's an opportunity to be able to share again and kind of bring it back up a level as you continue around. So that was really nice. I'm wondering for the fat talk if this is, and maybe Alan, I need some feedback from you around this. It's kind of supposed to be fast fire, so I wonder if there's a way to make that a little bit more quick so that it has more of an effect, even if that means just going down the list and doing them in order so that the folks in the group are challenged a little bit more. One thing I would say could be maybe improved.
I just thought a lot of what she said, so I won't reiterate, but it's so interesting to watch how everyone's confidence has really increased. Like you can tell that your comfort level, and I think obviously you guys have spent a day and a half together, so I loved actually watching the humor and the relationships that have been built in the group, and I think it's really just neat to watch. So I think, because I think your answers have definitely become richer as the days have gone on, right? More expansion, more sharing. So just same thing, I think when people left the room, you guys are more comfortable now as true facilitators to say, just to get you up to speed, and even I saw, a couple of people added some additional questions. Like I think Tiffany at one point said, what might be the benefit of challenging people? And then you rephrase it again and say, what would be the benefit of to self? Like, so you add an additional question. So I think that's great to see you guys are more comfortable with the material. And you're just more animated. Even so, Hannah, when you were asking a lot of the parents' ideal statements, you were very animated in how you were asking them and sort of putting some enunciation and really role playing. So I think you guys are doing a great job. It's just really apparent that you're all a very mature group. So I think you'll all do really great with this.
A lot of my comments are the same. One thing I did want to point out is just as facilitators, the warmth, the attentive listening, which is so essential. You can be wonderful at facilitating, but it is just that eye contact, that engagement, turning your chair to look at the person speaking. I wanted to participate because it looked like you really valued what everyone was saying and their participation. And it's also just reiterating too that comfortableness with silence. Not feeling, okay, we need to go on. It was allowing people to collect their thoughts and to participate. It never made, even watching, I was never uncomfortable with that, and it didn't seem like anyone here was either. So it's that part of that, like you said, that maturity, that comfort level of facilitating the group.
I would echo that again. I think as we've gone through and given feedback, there are certain things that you can modify and improve upon, but then there are certain other things that are just either you're naturally kind of good at it or you're not. And this group is really, really skilled, I feel, in that sense, in terms of active listening.
Anything else?
I wasn't professional on this one, and I wanted to say something to Hannah. You did something that no one else has done yet, and each time it was your turn, you actually said what the exercise was. And I actually preferred that, because there were some times yesterday that I was like, where the hell are we? There's something like, where are we? And I just, so this is a comment to you, but also maybe a future for Alan, just to think, I actually really liked that. And it seemed like the group really responded well of like, oh yeah, okay, this is where we are. Now some of it might be because now we're all gaining familiarity to it. But I was thinking when it was like a homework exercise or it was something you were referring back to, it really cued everybody. And I noticed that when that didn't happen, there was a little bit of confusion in the group of like, what are we doing? So actually, like, kudos to you. You brought something new to the group that nobody's done yet in the last 2 days. And I wasn't that was just something I naturally was like, you're doing something different, and I really liked it.
Anything else? Okay, so feedback on the feedback quickly. Lindsay, I liked your comments about keeping it engaging, the vulnerability, the quick fire nature. Definitely agree with that. That kind of remind folks, if you have to, that you want them to kind of give you snippy responses. That's what we're hoping at this point in session 2, and then either keep going down the list, or you will get so familiar with these that you will be able to roll them off in an even more efficient manner. And then Jennifer points about adding questions, animation, etc. Roz is valuing participation and continuing to talk about the comfort with silence. And Sam, I agree with you on the prompt piece, that one of the things I noted yesterday was when you're doing the handoffs, not only say I'm going to hand over, let's say, to Hannah now, but that's when you can also say who's going to lead us through the verbal challenge, for example, or who's going to lead us through something called future pressure, so that there's an acknowledgement that not only are we changing person, but we're changing the topic up as well. Some other quick things. I just wanted a lot of great body language use from all three of you. Lots of natural and appropriate laughter. I really like that as well, because it makes things very real and very human, and helps with that whole balance of this being a manualized intervention but not feeling scripted and feeling very real. With the behavioral challenge, I was glad people stayed focused at the beginning on the importance of how it turned out, because that's really the critical piece there for people to process is, did you making a decision to wear X item of clothing or not wear makeup today, did that decision cause Armageddon to happen, or fireballs coming out of the sky? Because some people really do have genuine irrational fears.
That was interesting
what
as
will
an
happen.
observer when folks were going around. I think the only one I remembered from yesterday was you saying about wearing baggy sweaters, because I noticed when you walked in this morning, like, yeah, she looks like she worked on that, and that's awesome. But the rest of you, when you commented, like, good morning, I'm going to do my hair, I was like, oh, you look the same to me.
So, yeah, and then for people, if they said it was a challenge, it can be for many folks about baby steps and gradual exposure. It's not going to be overnight. Keep trying at it. And the same, if people haven't had time to do it for some reason, when you have the week, and then you will follow up in midweek to remind them to do their homework usually and to come back to session 2. So it'll be rare, but if they haven't done it, asking them how they anticipate it will go when they do get a chance to do it. Then about the role plays, importance of bringing it back in quickly, as I mentioned earlier, after you're out of the group. If they are challenging you really well, then you're doing your job with the role plays. If they are knocking down every statement you make, that's a sign of a job well done by you. Then anything else? No, everything else has pretty much been covered.
I just have one comment about the mirror exercise, and this happened in the other group as well, but a lot of the times when we've been talking about it, it's been something that's come quite easy to all of you. Like at the beginning, yes, maybe it's been difficult, but then after a couple of minutes, you've all kind of said that you've been able to identify some things, but I anticipate that that might not be the case for everybody. And so it might actually be the case that someone can come around to somebody and be like, kind of actually went really terribly and I did not have a good experience with it. So I just wanted to put that out there because it's very likely that might be the case.
And for that, the best way to handle that, if people say that, and yeah, they will, is to encourage them to give it another try. Between the next time they get home, and maybe to even follow up with you individually or something, let you know how it went. Because yeah, for different people, they're in different places, and it's going to take time. It's like we got a question recently from some general population folks that are doing this with people that have pretty significant trauma history, and how did they start that out? And so we told them, you know, for that group, maybe the difference will be that they can't start it close to naked or even anywhere near that. Maybe they need to be fully clothed when they first do it. And maybe they'll only be able to come up with a few items. But it's a step in the right direction towards challenging this to have more appreciation and respect for your body.
And I think it's a good point that I didn't even really think about until you said that everyone here is here because they're already bought into it. I think even myself, I've changed my thinking over the last 24 hours, but I already, working in this area, get it. And you guys, at least I can speak for the larger folk, you had to fill out an application, so you're already bought in, and you might get people that come that are in, like, you know, you think your stage of change, they're in, like, they're not even in contemplation, they're in pre-contemplation. So I think the dynamic will be quite different. Like, you might not have the same humor, you might have way more silence, you may at times feel like, am I not doing this right? Because everybody's jumping in, or I'm having a hard time drawing. So just be prepared that, like, you may have to use more prompts, or maybe a little less comfortable than it feels today, but that doesn't mean that because you're not doing a good job, it's just very different. You're gonna have very different population than with your peers here today.
Okay, so let's take a brief 5-minute break and come back. And then what we're going to do is my job.
Hi, Sarah.
Did you want to start with feedback this time?
I'll start.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for another great session. I thought that the presenters did a great job. They had very clear direction and voice, and they kept the group on track. Definitely very warm and inviting. Smiling and non-eye contact, as Ross had said earlier. Being on time with the breakout activity, and then even being relaxed and letting the group contribute naturally, which I thought was really great. I liked that, Gaia, when you were at the board, you were reiterating what you heard and adding some comments to add to the discussion. And I think that the mirror exercise, well, we're almost used to being negative with ourselves, that negative self-talk. So being kind to yourself, and someone mentioned it's a new way of looking at yourself, or who said that? Was it Sydney or was it Hannah? One of you said that about the mirror exercise, which I thought was really great because you're changing your brain and how you think and about yourselves and others. I thought focusing on healthy motivation with exercising is a good, not only are you yourself coming to this realization, but other people are picking it up in the group. I thought that, I think that the culture of body acceptance is growing. The same way, even in this group, using the term partner instead of boyfriend or girlfriend, it's natural, it's very authentic. And I believe that in several years, it might be a while, but this acceptance of body health at every size and a healthy body image and being kind to yourself and kind to others is going to grow. I think you guys are great and very, very smart, and I think that as a group, your skill set has improved, that you're going to come to go back to your institution and to stay here at the University of Waterloo and be leaders for many others. And it'll be great to see where this program goes and what some of the feedback is from people who are participating. I know that in the last session we mentioned how comfortable you are with each other, and we kind of talked about it a little bit on the break, but you're comfortable with each other because you've been together for 2 days. We have to get that same comfort level in a group when you've only been with them for 2 hours. And when the content is so sensitive and people are unsure of how to participate sometimes. And we do have the Mirrorless Mondays here, Amanda, so we'll get you involved. We'll get the people from this group involved. And finally, the letters. The letters were very powerful. Thank you for sharing those. Both personally and professionally, I found them extremely valuable.
So one of the things I noticed is that you did a really good job of integrating kind of like all of the feedback from all of the sessions. So for instance, Gaia, you did a really good job of kind of switching it up, going from popcorn style to going around in a circle. Sydney with the rapid fire, so you were quicker with going around and saying the statements. So I think overall you all did a really good job with that. Taking risks, so I noticed that the peer leaders again were taking bigger risks, and I think that just goes back to reflect the fact that you've been together now for 2 days and you're getting more and more comfortable with one another. But I did note in particular that the peer leaders were taking more of that risk, so I appreciated that. Gaia Active Scribe, good job with that. And Amanda, it was interesting, it's hard when you're asking a question and you're looking for the head nod, and you assume that they are all going to be nodding their heads, but I noticed that you took the time to actually make eye contact and go around in a circle, which when you're going through something like this where it can feel maybe a little bit robotic because you know everybody's shaking their heads, that you at least still took the time to look up and make eye contact with everybody, so I thought that was great. And in going through and reading some of the examples, Bethany, you were really animated. So when things were in quotes, like you took the time to actually read it in a way that would sound correct. So with the example of not accepting a compliment, you were like, oh my God. So like the way that you did that, I think it just made that example stronger. And then there was the where Gaia kind of misspoke toward the end. You kind of rolled with that mistake easily enough, and it didn't negatively affect the way that things went. You just kind of were flexible with it, so I think that was great. And just a note that Chelsea had popped out at the end, and when she came back in, no one checked in with her, so just a reminder that when people leave, to make sure that if they miss an exercise, they at least are given an opportunity to speak if they want to. But overall, I think you all did fantastic.
There's not much more for me to say. But I do have things to say. Imagine. I actually had a couple of compliments that I wanted to offer to each of you. Sydney, one of my favorite things that you did today is actually your body language. That I'm not even sure if you're aware of what you did. So when you were eliciting feedback, as you were listening, you were actively engaged and active listening. You were nodding, you leaned in, your body posturing changed in terms of which direction, who you were listening to, and that's spot on. That's exactly what we want to see, so good for you. Amanda, my favorite thing about you, and you already know this because we talked last night, there's such a confidence in how you present. So there's a sense of even if you're not 100% sure of exactly how things are going to go, like, are you guys going to nod back? You never showed that kind of like, hey, give me some head nods. You just stayed confident. You just stayed in that place that I think that peers are going to look to you and they want you to be confident. They want to know that you know what you're doing. And so even if you didn't, you sell it. And I think that that's great. Gaia, my favorite thing about you is your animation. You know, there's some playfulness about you, and I think that your strength is probably bringing some of that fun to the group. You have that natural kind of ability. You were eliciting answers when you were at the board and just clarifying, but you also did it, in a fun kind of way, and it wasn't like just strict like to the task sort of thing. And Bethany, my favorite part about your presentation style is actually what Lindsay was talking about, you have a really nice cadence, you have a nice pacing, you actually had sections where you had like a lot to read compared to the others, and you didn't read it too quickly, you just really took your time, you paused, you used the punctuation to actually know when to emphasize something versus when to kind of take that moment to say, I'm gonna let that sink in before I move to the next sentence, and I thought that was spectacular. That's my observation.
Who's tired? Congratulations, you're group one. I mean, I know that we move people around, so you kind of go in a different place at each time, but I think that you had the hardest job all weekend, Friday and Saturday, going first and setting the bar way, way up here, and then like still keeping it up there at the end of 2 pretty intense days. So major kudos to all of you, because I'm spent. I can't imagine like holding all of that space for people for a total of almost like 20 hours. So way to go. I can't do that. I'm not 20 hours. You know, that's how tired I am. Yeah. How long have we been here? Forever. So with that in mind, I do think that it's important to note how you're feeling, how you felt at the start and how you feel now in these groups, because you're probably going to be doing these at really different times of day, different times of semester, after long days of classes, after on a Saturday morning when you have different amounts of energy. And just noticing that and noticing how your voice carries depending on how much energy you bring. So making sure that you have a big voice even when you're spent, trying your darndest, especially a couple times when conversing with people, when going around the circle. I noticed it wasn't necessarily the leaders, but being really attentive to somebody right beside you allowed them to diminish their voice. And I'm not sure, I certainly couldn't always hear, I'm not sure if the group could, but depending on, I mean, we work in an environment that's constantly under construction, so depending on the room that you're in, just noticing that and noticing whether or not, because I saw both Jisoo and Vishali do that when you were right beside the person and you could be responding. So making sure that you're open to the whole group so that people can project around. Another thing to note through that section is that at this point in the training, you will have had the whole first day all together. And so I think one neat thing about that is, I'm so impressed with the number of times that you could even pull out a new idea or concept or like have like strokes of brilliance at the but kind of paying attention to that piece where you, the part where I like my hips, because we're doing the part about I like and then naming things, paying attention to what folks have said earlier, especially in what the appearance ideal looks like, things that are kind of sensitive for that particular group, noticing those things and using that to like really get the group to go deep and talk about themselves. I think that could be really helpful. We skipped the next part. Sydney, I think somebody's already said it about 12 times, but I kept writing down, you're really paying attention, nodding, summarizing. Yeah, great job. Bethany, your voice carries no matter when. I suffer from a similar affliction, but you're doing a great job in this sense. Gosh, Guy, I wrote on point. When you were up here making points, and I thought I was funny. I made myself laugh at the same time. It was really good that you were summarizing everything. I think that your strength is being able to engage with the group, so noting that, being cognizant of the time, and in this setting it really doesn't, it's really hard to be able to do that because you kind of like set defined periods, but being attentive to the times that we can keep going around and just saying things like, when you want to summarize, how's blank? You get a nod and then continue. To be able to make sure you've heard what they've said, you've got it reflected, and we can keep going around the circle pretty fast.
Can I quickly add something?
Yeah.
Because I would agree with that. I think you did a really good job when you were up there. I noticed one time in particular, maybe there's a difference between some of the times when you were repeating back and validating what they said, which was really good. And then there was a time where you almost went into engaging them and saying like, oh, you can read a lot of things online about calories. And I think remembering the purpose of the program is we can open lots of cans of worms and not to go that way.
I didn't realize that after I did that.
That's why we're here though, to practice those things and to realize like, okay, this is assignment, this is.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, you're a natural up there. Yeah, thanks, Sam. Another thing to add to the big long list of stuff that both Sam and I have written down, and a lot of those students, you have access to these as well, are the Eating Disorder Coalition, doubly those words. There are like peel and stick stickers for mirrors and stuff that we put out places, and we can hand those out at these things. That would be really cool. Nice handoffs.
These are the ones that I had.
Hands on.
I think Sandy is our dietitian, has more.
She might have some more. Yeah.
Sydney, super authentic feedback when you were going around, just in general, you're telling people great things, came across really authentically. Amanda's super playful, like when you're reading scripts, great job. Super easy for work. A guy giving space to listen responses. Yeah, you're all great. You figured it all out. Congratulations. Thank you all. That's the all out jewel of the group. You're great. You're great. This is great.
Okay, so my final feedback, first thing, I'm really impressed with all of the professionals that you still have. Lots of positive things you were able to draw on. Sometimes the professionals do check out a little bit too and don't have much to say, so thank you all for also being on top of it till the end. Sandra, your comments about the adherence, the style, the organization, and talking about the growth of the group over the last couple of days, and that's really important. Lindsay, I like what you were talking about, how Gaia became really good about changing up the direction and some of the mirroring back, and then getting through that mistake as well, which worked out seamlessly. And then Sam, your discussions of active listening, the confidence, animation, the use of punctuation, which is really important, of coming to the end of sentences and actually stopping, or if something's underlined, that it means emphasis is needed, etc. And then Jean talking about timing, energy, voice inflection, and then how you can bring those sections together as well. Those are all great areas you touched on. Not really much left for me to say, other than obviously, I think I might have said this earlier, in real time, you won't cut anything down or out in sessions because people are only doing it once. So don't be tempted to. Make sure they get the full intervention. On the body activism exercise system, each person only chose one. I don't know if that was a training piece that people have just decided to move to one, but make sure people are choosing 2 acts that they're going to do. And then with this group, I just noticed really good voice and really good energy from all 4 of you. So that was critical. Okay, so that is, it's basically a wrap up of things. So what we're going to do is, if the professionals have any other words of wisdom or final comments they want to make, then I'll say some final things. We'll give you actually, no, let's do it this way. Let's take 3 or 4 minutes so you can work on your testimonials. and then we'll wrap things up and do the photo and get out of here.
Well, that's happening. I really want to thank Sandra and Lindsay for all the organizing that they've done to put this together. This room, the space, telling